Before we jump into today's episode of the podcast, I want to talk to you about Calibrate Workshop 2023. This is happening on August 23rd. We're doing a one-day workshop this year. What I want you to do is head over to howtofilmweddings.com/calibrate and jump on the wait list. We are doing an exclusive early bird launch next week. And if you want this special price on early bird tickets, you need to be on that wait list. So head over to howtofilmweddings.com/calibrate to get more information about this once a year workshop that we put on with some of the industry's best. We're going to be announcing guest speakers next week, along with that special early bird promo. So head over to howtofilmweddings.com/calibrate for more information and get on that wait list. Now let's jump into this week's episode of the How to Film Weddings podcast. Hello and welcome to this week's episode of the How to Film Weddings podcast. My name is Nick Miller. Today I'm doing a solo interview. John is out of town on family vacation in Montana, getting some well-deserved relax and resting and all that sort of stuff. So it's just me, but you are going to want to tune into this week's episode of the podcast. I have Mr. Sam Jacobson. He works for Aversion Consulting. They are business and sales and copywriting experts. They have helped us at Wild Oak Films and John over with Bunn Films book $10, $12, $15,000 weddings by putting into practice the things that they preach. Today we are talking about the 5 mistakes that people make whenever you are giving your proposals to couples, and just things that you should be thinking about, things that you should consider whenever you are sending those proposals off to people. At the top of the episode, I mentioned Calibrate Workshop is coming. We are so excited. So again, head over to howtofilmweddings.com/calibrate. And one of the amazing sponsors of Calibrate Workshop this year is MusicBed. MusicBed is John and I's go-to source for music licensing in our wedding films. We've been exclusively using them for, a decade or so. Only MusicBed, they are the best service out there when it comes to music licensing. If you would like to get 1 month free off of a yearly subscription, head over to howtofilmweddings.com/musicbed. Use promo code HTFW23 to get that promo there. Now, I've just shared a bunch of information with you. Let's jump into this week's episode of the How to Film Weddings podcast. Well, hello, Sam. Thank you so much for hopping on the How to Film Weddings podcast today. How are you doing?
I'm good, man. I'm good. I'm feeling energized. I was in my wife's office. We work together, but on different floors because she can't stand working in the same space as me. And she keeps the door closed to her office and makes me knock if I want to go in. And I try to respect this. I try to respect it as much as I can. And so I was standing outside. It's a glass door, and so I was standing outside pacing, and I knocked, and she's like, okay, takes her AirPod out, and she's like, what's up? And I don't remember what it was, but I was super excited about it. And she's like, you have far too much energy. Can you please leave my office and go back downstairs?
Oh, yeah. I usually wake up like an hour before my wife, oftentimes, I'm just up before her. And so I get up and I start doing stuff and, I'm ready to go. And I go up and I like, hey, it's this time. Are you getting up? And then I just kind of blurt out all this stuff that I've been thinking about. And she's like, whoa, like you need to, I understand what you're talking about there. So
yeah. That's so funny. I'm the same way. Even on weekends, I'm up at like 5 o'clock doing backflips out of bed. Let's start the day. What are we going to do to have fun?
Yeah. Let's go. So I know that you've been on the podcast before and we've talked to you a lot. We've talked about you a lot, but just in case this is, the first introduction that some of our listeners might have to you, why don't you do a quick rundown of just kind of who you are and what you do and about you.
Yeah. So I am sales pricing, copywriting expert. I co-own Aversion Consulting with my wife, Katie. Collectively, we have over 3 decades of experience selling weddings directly to clients. And now, over the last 6 years, we have helped wedding professionals like you and others in videography and photography and planners, you name it, really focus on how to attract more ideal clients and how to convert them using sales best practices. So our company has 8 people all working full time to do that with our clients. We are primarily a copywriting company now, which is kind of interesting because I do business strategy and sales coaching and
Mm-hmm.
training. And that's what I spend my time doing. But we have 6 full-time employees doing nothing but copywriting, 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 mostly for websites, and also for custom proposals, which I know we're going to talk more about, as well
Mm-hmm.
as additional add-on pages. So we love what we do. We love working for our clients' wins, and we love infusing buyer psychology and different types of sales tactics into the kind of work that we do to help people out.
Yeah, yeah, and I can vouch as someone that has hired Sam, as someone that has just gotten to know him and his team and stuff, and help us both with Wild Oak Films, with my wedding video brand, but also with How to Film Weddings and all that stuff. This guy knows what he's talking about, and if you haven't heard him speak before, I recommend getting out a paper and pen. And if you're driving, just pull over and soak it all in, because you're gonna get some golden nugget truth bombs. It's just gonna make you wow. So get ready for that. I'm just preparing you ahead of time. So Sam, no pressure.
Well, I'll do my best to live up to it. I know we're
Well,
talking about a deep and wide topic, so lots of
yes,
things to dive
yes.
into.
Yeah. So today, what we wanted to do was talk about we're saying the 5 mistakes people make with their proposals. And before we kind of get in and kind of start getting specific about some of these mistakes, I think whenever someone hears the word proposal, kind of based on how they run their business and what they do and how they sell stuff and what they do, they might have a few different things in mind. I know that a lot of people are probably like, oh, here's my PDF pricing sheet, and I just pass that along, and that's what they think of with a proposal. But I know that your methods are a little bit different, and so why don't you just kind of build that framework around what you mean, what we mean when we say proposal, before we kind of jump into some of this stuff.
Yeah, that's great, Nick. I'm glad you brought that up. It's called the curse of knowledge. My wife always reminds me of it, which is that not everybody knows what you know. And you and I, we've talked about this before. We've done co-trainings together, but it's super helpful to make sure we're providing some context. So,
Mm-hmm.
quick little overview of what I view based on all of my research, 17 years of studying sales and actually selling complex purchases like wedding services, is an ideal sales process is designed around the way that couples want to buy. And so if you look at what human beings go through when they make decisions, you can design a sales process that meets each one of those needs along the way. Sales is about sharing the right information at the right time and doing it in the right way. And a sales process can look something like this if you want it to be the most effective, at least the most effective way that I know. And that is that a couple inquires, you respond as quickly as you can with an email, and the goal is not to book them on that email or share all the information. Instead, the goal is to get them onto a discovery call. Some people call it a consultation, but the goal is to have a conversation with the couple or one of the people who are getting married to learn a little bit more about what they want and need from your services and for their wedding. And then if you find out that it's a good fit for your services and the stars align, you can send out a custom proposal that's tailored around the services that you want to provide based on the needs that they've shared on that discovery call. And then eventually you would close the deal and get a contract and deposit. So what we're talking about today, when I use the word proposal, and what Nick is mentioning when he uses the word proposal, is that pitch, that list of services that you want to provide that are a solution to the problems that you have found in the conversation that you did with the discovery call.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay. So now that all of you have heard that and have taken notes on that and understand what we're talking about, we're going to kind of jump in here and kind of talk about these 5 mistakes. And there might be some of you that are listening out there that are like, oh, I'm kind of doing like the same process, right? I get an inquiry, I respond very quickly, and then I hop on a call, and then I'm sharing my pricing sheet, which maybe it's just a PDF and it's very stock for everyone, and you're kind of sending over the same thing, but you might be getting hung up somewhere, and they're like, well, I'm sending them the pricing and we had these great phone calls, but nothing's happening. And I think that this leads into the first mistake that I know that you wanted to talk about, which is that you're kind of, whenever you send these proposals over, or maybe it kind of how you run your consultation or discovery calls, maybe these kind of fit together a little bit, you're being way too generic, and you're not being custom enough with these proposals. So what should people be thinking about? What are recommendations that you have to take these from generic to more tailored for each couple?
Yeah, I love the word tailored, custom, personalized. People want to know that they've been seen and heard. And one of the best ways that you can do that is by letting them know that this is a unique experience that you are providing for them based around the information that they've shared about what their biggest hopes and dreams are with their wedding, with the wedding film. Because it may just be another client, another date on the books for you, but for them, it's their only wedding, and it's their only wedding film that hopefully they're going to have for years, decades to look back on. So when you send out a proposal, what you're doing, if you customize it, is you're giving them the sense, you're showing, not just telling them, that you're going to create a one-of-a-kind experience and a one-of-a-kind film for them. Rather than just stamp out another film about another couple's wedding, you're going to let them know that you heard what's important to them. You're going to let them know that you're going to come up with a way to meet their needs that is going to be tailored to those needs, not somebody else's. One of the challenges with a typical PDF pricing sheet or pricing guide is that it reads more like a brochure. It's all things to all people. And that means that it's not the most important thing to that one couple. So when you send out a customized proposal, you're letting them know, I heard you, I see you, I understand what's most important to you, and I've tailored some services around that. Now, here's the thing. You don't actually have to recreate a new proposal for every single one of the couples. I don't want that to be the big takeaway. All you're going to really do is just customize the intro and make sure that the packages or the collections, the offerings, whatever you want to call it, are tailored to their needs. So you're going to have a general template that you're going to use for the proposal, and 95% of it is going to be the same for every couple that you send it out to. But what you're going to personalize, what you're going to customize, is that intro, the very first opening part, and then also you're going to make sure that the packages and pricing are tweaked to meet their needs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's really, really good. And again, yeah, I think that whenever I kind of first heard this style of presenting proposals and not just sending out a sheet, I was like, man, I don't want to make something every time. But no, it's, whether you're using a PDF and you're just kind of updating it, or it's a custom page on your website, which I have gone to based on your recommendation. I'm just duplicating the original and then changing out a few sentences, and it works really, really well. And if you're doing the discovery calls correct and you're writing down pain points that the couple has or things that they are very interested on, you can kind of, put little things in that proposal that were like, oh, they listened to me. I wasn't just another person. One thing that I love that I picked up from you guys was I don't show, like in the proposal, I don't show the same wedding film to every couple that inquires with me that I get to that spot. I'm always like, this was a wedding that we filmed, I think, that would check off the boxes of things that they're interested in. And then I read, so that just, again, it's another custom thing, another tailored thing that people get back and like, wow, this is something different. This is something special. So that's a big takeaway that I have from you, that I have taken from you guys.
Yeah, that's great, and it is. It's those little things that show people, especially if you don't get to talk to both people who are getting married, that you're doing things to make them feel special. And I tell people all the time that the process itself that I recommend and talk about on podcasts like this, and with clients one-on-one or in group coaching programs, whatever it might be, everything is to design the sales process so it in and of itself becomes the differentiator. It is the unique selling position.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's really good. And that As a differentiator, I'm going to go ahead and kind of go on our sheet here. I'm going to skip to number 3, and then we'll come back to number 2, because I think these two, you're talking about the differentiators and stuff. And in your proposals, in your things that you're putting out there, people aren't outlining, laying out, however we want to put that, why me instead of someone else, like differentiating yourself. Instead, it's kind of very generic. I think you told me a while ago that there are, for every vendor that someone is looking at, they're looking at like 8 to 12 of that specific vendor and then reaching out to 3. So what's that differentiator? So how do you recommend like making you stand out whenever you're sending a proposal?
Yeah, I'm glad that you brought that up, Nick, because one of the things that's really important is to make sure that when your proposal is being compared apples to apples to apples with other filmmakers, that you make it really easy for people to know what's different about your films and your approach and your experience that you create for them and what somebody else does. Literally imagine going into a grocery store and you see 5 crates of apples, all different apples, and they have different names and different price points, but no other information. And so you, as the untrained apple buyer, look at the apples to try and spot the differences. And they're all kind of the same size and kind of the same colors and kind of the same shape. And, they all have a little skin on the outside and a stem. And so you go through and you try and decide, which one am I going to get? Now imagine out of those 5 different crates of apples, one of the apple crates had a big sign in front of it that listed out not just the name and the price, but where it was picked and what kind of flavors it has and what kind of texture it has and what kind of uses you can put the apple to. All of a sudden, your eye is drawn to that apple with just those little bits of information that you have about it. We want your proposal to do the same thing. So if you've got 4 or 5 proposals that are all sitting next to each other and you're a couple that is untrained at buying wedding videography, you want to make it as easy as possible for them to know what makes you different and unique and how it's going to help them get ultimately what they want. So having some competitive advantages listed out is super important to put, and I recommend doing it right below your collections of films that you're offering. So you're gonna offer, I'd recommend 3 distinct packages, and below that you would put a testimonial, and then below that you would put 4 to 6 competitive advantages that you think make you stand out when being compared with the comp set. And that could be things that you do before the wedding, like the kind of client experience, and you could say something like, instead of sending out a questionnaire to quote, get to know you, I actually get you on a Zoom call where we have a great conversation. I learn about what's most important to you for the wedding. We get to know each other so that you can feel relaxed and comfortable on the wedding day. That would be a simple little competitive advantage statement that differentiates you from other people. It follows a simple formula, which is others do this. Instead, I do this, so you get this. Others blank, instead I blank, so you get blank. And that's a simple formula that everybody can use and come up with 50 to 75 word mini statements that you can put in your proposal. Nobody else is doing that unless they're clients of ours. And so immediately you're going to stand out and people are going to focus on why you're different and better rather than how much your services cost.
Yeah. And whenever you stick out, like just thinking of your Apple example, that one that you talked about with the sign, all that stuff's going to stand out. And how many people are sending out a very similar looking PDF that might have a picture of a couple and then lots of text, maybe a picture of the filmmaker or, something, but most not, this is going to make you stand out. And then those sentences you're talking about, they do this, we do this because this, and that turns it into making it more about the couple, right? Making it more about the client, which brings us to our next mistake where, people, when they're selling, it's all like, well, I as the filmmaker do this, I use this camera, I shoot in this, and they make it about me, the one that's filming, rather than the couple's needs and what the couple wants and tailoring things to them.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to be really clear. It's important for you as the filmmaker to put yourself out there, and you certainly want to do that. It's just not in the proposal that you want that to be the focus. So we want sales success to again be focused on the right info at the right time and in the right way. So the right info is about you, but the wrong time would be to put it on the proposal. The info about you should be on your about page, on your website, earlier in the buyer's journey. Earlier in the buyer's journey, when people are looking at service providers, they want to know who they can trust to deliver ultimately the result, the solution that they're looking for. And so having a robust about page with information about how you help clients and what you get them and what it's like to work with you and your style and the experiences that people have, that should be front and center on your website. However, later in the buyer's journey, when couples are making a decision between one set of products and another set of product, they want to know how what you're offering as a product is going to meet the needs that they have for wedding films. And so that's what we want to focus on. If you're focusing on you, you're not giving them any new information because that's already information that's on your website. So instead, what you want to focus on are the client's needs. You mentioned earlier, Nick, that in that personalized intro, that's the time to reflect back to the couple what it is that they have shared with you on the discovery call. It's really easy. You just do the discovery call, you take notes, you write down their 3 or 4 biggest desires or concerns, and in that intro, you reflect back to them. Hey, Sarah and Steve, it was great chatting with you about your upcoming wedding. I'm super excited about the opportunity to be a part of it and the filmmaker to tell your story. It was great getting to know what's most important to you. Here's what I took away from our conversation the other day. And then you just list out bullet point, bullet point, bullet point, bullet point, and then you offer below that the 3 different packages that you want to put forth as options for them to choose from. So instead of opening up and saying, I believe this, or my style is this, or I've won all of these awards, or here's my bio or my resume, you should trust me, here's all the experience I have. Instead, focus on reflecting back to them what they've already shared. It makes them feel heard, and it lets them know that you have their best interests in mind.
Yeah, I can't tell you how many couples that I have met with and sent over proposals, whether they booked with me or they haven't booked with me. And usually it just came down to price. Like I did all the stuff that was correct and right and, what I should have done. But, it just came to how they couldn't afford it. They wanted to because I had done my job right in selling myself, but also how I could meet their needs. But they've still come back to me like, your proposal, how you put yourself together, how we did the call was incredible. And I wish that it just didn't work out, or yes, it worked. And we move forward and it's great there, but taking these things, it's, I think, I was talking with John about this the other day about how a lot of people in this industry, they don't get into it for the sales side of things. Right. There's some that do, obviously, just like business entrepreneurial people, but most was like, oh, we want to create beautiful wedding videos. Oh, we want to take these photos. Oh, I just want to style, plan these weddings. But like this business side of stuff, like it's foreign to most people. They're just like, oh, I don't get it. And so it might seem a little counterintuitive to do some of these things to some people, just how they think about stuff. And so having this proposal and outlining it like this and following some of these things, it's definitely going to be very beneficial if you take these things to heart. So Sam, we're going to take a quick break, and then we'll get back with a few more mistakes that people are making with their proposals. Attention wedding filmmakers. The best resource for licensing music for your wedding films is MusicBed. I have been exclusively using MusicBed for about 8 years, and our films are better because of it. I hear a lot from our couples that reach out to us that our wedding films feel different, that the music isn't cheesy. MusicBed has a roster of incredibly talented musicians, bands, and composers who pour their hearts into their work, and you can hear the difference. Find the perfect song with MusicBed's intuitive search features like genre, mood, beats per minute, and my favorite, key. Head over to howtofilmweddings.com/musicbed to learn more and take your films to the next level. Use promo code HTFW23 at checkout to receive 1 month free with the purchase of an annual subscription. That's howtofilmweddings.com/musicbed. Okay, we are back from break with Sam Jacobson of Ideaction, and we're just talking about mistakes that people are making with their proposals whenever they're sending that to their couples, and trying to get them to book. So you mentioned earlier that whenever it comes to your collections or packages or however you want to say those, you recommend doing 3. But a big mistake that you've seen that people make is they're either doing too many, they're not doing enough. What do you have to say with that number? Why 3, and why you think people should do that one?
So 3 is a great number because it's not too many choices to create what's called the paradox of choice, where people become overwhelmed with too many different options. And it doesn't simplify things too much, which puts people into a bind where they feel like they don't have enough freedom to choose something, and so they look elsewhere for choices, or they don't make a choice at all. It's called single option aversion. And so 3 is a great number. It's called the Goldilocks effect. If you go through and you look at stories that have been told for literally thousands of years, you will find that the number 3 is a very common number. It's very popular, and it just resonates with human beings. It always has. And it's also very powerful in creating what's called choice architecture, where you can steer people to make decisions based on different effects that people aren't even aware of. And one of those is called the compromise effect, where people tend not to want to buy the cheapest option because they feel like it's the lowest quality, at least of the 3, and they tend not to splurge on the most expensive option because they don't think they need everything, and so they then compromise and pick the middle option. You can also use things like anchors and decoys, the framing effect, asymmetry domination. There's lots of different thought that goes into using 3 different choices.
Yeah, I as you're talking about decoys, or I don't know if this is what you mean, but this is what I went to. I remember going, it was some tiered website, something where, they had option 1, option 2, option 3, and they made it look like option 2, the one in the middle, was the best and the best price and all of this stuff. But it was something like, it wasn't this, but it was buy 1 for $5, or get 4 for $20, and they put it in the middle and made it gold and made it like you're literally not getting a deal, but they make it look like you are with how they present it. Best buy, best, so how you present stuff and how you put things out there really does matter with that. And how also I think something I don't know where I picked this up. Maybe it was John, maybe it was you, whatever. Do you recommend, if you do go with 3 options, like putting the most expensive one as the first thing that they see, or doing them side by side? What do you recommend for that?
I recommend going high to low. And there's something that kicks in called loss aversion or endowment effect, where people become attached to the most expensive item, not because of the price, but because of all the things that they get with it. And so your most expensive product or service or bundle usually has more goodies in there, and they're like, oh yeah, that sounds good, I want that, and oh yeah, that sounds good, oh yeah, I want those social media edits, and oh, look at that really fast turnaround, and oh, I get those sneak peeks, oh, look at that, I get more time, that's how long I want, oh, and I get the raw footage, oh, this is exactly what I want, I told them that on the discovery call, and here they are presenting it back to me. And then they go to the next package, and it doesn't have a fast turnaround time, or as many minutes on the documentary film, or any teaser, or the raw ceremony footage. And so now they're like, wait, I fell in love with that on the thing that I just read, and now you're taking it away from me. I don't want you to take it away for me. Maybe I'm willing to pay more money for it. So that's what loss aversion is, or the endowment effect. I'll tell you this really interesting case study that I remember from one of the applied behavioral economics courses that I took recently. And in there were 2 different groups, and one was asked to get as many toppings as possible to satisfy their needs on a pizza. And so they had a cheese pizza, and they could add up to 8 toppings for $2 a piece. And another group was asked to pick their pizza, but they started off with the Supreme, fully loaded, and take away toppings that they were not interested in. So what ended up happening with the first group, the cheese plus toppings, is that they ended up adding on 2 to 3 toppings as an average. The group that started off with the Supreme and was asked to remove toppings ended up with 6 or 7 toppings because they couldn't bear to take things away that they already had on the pizza. So if you go through and you look at the approach of having, say, 3 different packages versus a popular alternative, which is base plus a la carte add-ons, my version, my approach is the Supreme, and the base plus add-ons is cheese plus add-on toppings. And we've seen, not just through this case study, but through several others, that you're going to get people to spend more money, get more things from you if you start off with the fully loaded and ask them to take things away.
Right. That's good. And yeah, and it would be yeah, you just said it in the pizza. If you go low to high, then it's like they get connected to that low one, and then it's just the inverse. It's kind of the same thing there. So yeah, that's really, really interesting information. I should read more like stuff like that, just to.
You don't need to read more, Nick. You just keep listening to the podcast.
Yeah,
we got several more minutes.
just hit you up and I'll listen to you. That's the only book I need. One thing that early on that I learned from you was how specifically HoneyBook, and I don't know how other CRMs, how they work whenever it comes to this kind of stuff thing. But with HoneyBook, what you do is you say, here's my proposal, and then I'm sending the proposal, and then with them, you get a link to pay, and you get the agreement where they can sign it, and it's all kind of a package bow deal together. And I have learned that this is not the optimal way to do stuff whenever you are sending the pricing sheet, right? What do you have to say about that one?
Yeah, I'm glad you brought it up because it's something that I think the default is on CRMs. I really don't know, how each CRM is configured, but many CRMs, the default option is to have the proposal and the invoice and the contract all go out together. And certainly it seems easy. There's fewer steps involved. But it's less likely to give you the result of somebody saying yes and signing the contract and paying the deposit than if you sent them separately. And I would recommend sending the proposal first and then sending over the contract and the invoice after you get a verbal yes. Imagine you're trying to get somebody to say yes to a different kind of proposal, a proposal to marry you. You get down on one knee, you have a ring, you tell them whatever it is that you want to tell them to butter them up, and then you present the ring. And at the same time you present the ring, you pull out of your pocket a prenuptial agreement and also a marriage certificate where they have to fill out a bunch of paperwork to make sure that you turn it in before you can get actually married. Obviously, nobody does this, and for good reason, because you're just trying to get them to say yes to marrying you. After that, you can deal with all of the really boring stuff and frankly, really scary and expensive stuff like signing contracts and giving people your credit card. So get a verbal yes, make it easy for them, get them excited about the fun stuff and build up that momentum, get them to feel like they're all ready to sign up for your services, and then hit them with the scary stuff, which is the contract and deposit. Doing it all at once makes the proposal less important and people will get bogged down in the deposit or whether they can use a credit card or what one of the terms and conditions that you have in your contract, or maybe they'll think that they need to go through and get an attorney to read something before they can say yes to the proposal that you have. It's just too much at once. Make it simple and do one thing at a time.
Right. Make it, the path of least resistance, everything that you can do to make it where someone will say yes. And it's just like easy little steps. And while accepting your proposal is a big step, it's not as big as like requiring payment and a signed contract and all of that stuff that it just all adds up together. Man, really, really good information. We covered 5 mistakes that people are making when it comes to a proposal. We talk about being, too generic and not enough custom. We talked about, not laying out why you are different or talking about you a lot rather than the couple a lot and positioning yourself there. Too many options, not enough options, and then also sending the invoices and proposal. Same as we were talking, I know you came up with maybe a couple of bonus ones. We like to give more away. We promised 5, but I think we might have a couple of more. What are the ones that you said? And I think you were talking in our mastermind a few months ago about this. And the one that people make a mistake that you see is weird jargon. And you brought up the point. It's like, I know as videographers, we're talking often about, I need a shooter for this. I need a shooter for this. We're talking filmmakers, but you're like, don't put 2 shooters in your proposal because of just the world that we live in today and that weird jargon. So why don't you talk about that bonus one there about just weird jargon in your proposals?
Yeah, I mean, shooters is definitely something that you don't want at a wedding. It's not a good term to use. I would avoid that one for sure. But there are other things that, aren't triggers, for instance, but are just inexplicable and don't pass the sniff test when people are like, wait a second, do I even know what this means? And so things like, documentary film versus a highlight film versus a teaser. I couldn't tell you exactly the differences between them, and I'm in the wedding industry. I think that everybody uses different terms for what those are. There's no set length for either one of them, or what goes into it, or what you're going to communicate, what story you're going to tell in each one of those. So I would definitely avoid using terms without explanation. So you can use a term, obviously, to describe something like highlight film, but you want to make sure that you're providing some background and clarification on what that is. And so when you go through and you read your own proposal, you might not know that something is not understandable to a layperson, a couple who is not a videographer. So what I'd recommend doing is giving your proposal with the information that you're sharing to somebody who's not in the wedding industry, and just ask them, hey, do you know what all of these terms mean? Do you get what it is that I'm trying to say? And I would focus specifically on the features, the bullet points that you're including in your packages.
Yeah. We've seen that specifically too, just like the word choice that you're using and how wordy you are, and to just, you're trying to describe yourself, but then that's a whole other thing, right? Is you don't want your proposal to be paragraph and paragraph and paragraph explaining the thing that you're doing. And so there's kind of a fine balance there, but I think that's a great point of sharing with someone else who's not in the industry. Like, do you understand what this phrase means? Understand what these things mean. So
yeah, don't get too fancy. I will say, I was just thinking of another one that I hear quite a bit, and that is using words like cinematic. I'm a cinematic filmmaker. I truly have no clue what that means. Like, cinematic is compared to what?
Yeah.
Like, are you a Martin Scorsese type, or are you David Fincher style? Like, I don't know what that means. I'm not a professional filmmaker. I'm not a director. I didn't go to art school. So remember that there are bright, intelligent people out there who are experts in what they do. You are one of them as a filmmaker for your company, but it doesn't mean that everybody knows as much as you do. So use plain English. Make it simple for people to understand, and make sure that you're explaining and clarifying anything that might be complex.
Yeah, that's good. And is there any other things you just want to add in there real quick before we hop off of here?
Yeah, one thing that I think is really important for filmmakers, for videographers specifically, is to use more video, especially in your proposal. So this goes back to Ernest Hemingway saying, "Show, don't tell." And it's true in writing, it's true in your proposals. You want to make sure that you're showing people that you are an expert in video. You want to show them that you are creative. You don't want to say that you're an expert. You don't want to say that you're creative. Show them. So I would recommend using more video in your proposals. It's another reason, one of the 438 good reasons to not use a PDF pricing guide instead of a custom proposal that is either on your CRM or even better as a hidden web page, because you can use multimedia. So a great way to explain, for instance, what it is that you're talking about or the differences between your kinds of films is to be able to use clickable links where you can put a video that gives them an example or a sample of that particular film type, and have that be a click through or a pop-up, a light box that goes onto the proposal page. Another great way to use video creatively and to connect with the people that you're trying to pitch is to put a little intro video of you saying, "Hey, Sarah and Steve, it's me, Sam. Just wanted to say hi and let you know that I'm really excited for you to have an opportunity to see the different options that you could use to have me film your wedding, blah, 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 blah." And have that as your intro, either in the cover email or actually in the proposal itself. Because one, it's fun, two, it's memorable, and three, anybody who looks at the proposal, not just the people that you've already talked to on the discovery call, but anybody, fiancés, significant others, parents, siblings, anybody who's involved in making the decision will now get a chance to see you eye to eye, to hear your voice, to know that you are personalized this experience, and that it starts before they've even signed a contract. So videographers, use more video. It'll help you stand out. It'll allow you to connect. It'll build value. It'll provide reassurance. All those things that you need to make sure that you're going to convert more proposals.
Yeah, that's really good. I love that idea of, incorporating some sort of video, a talking head of you just talking to them, whether that's, on the proposal, in the however you want to do that. But that's a really, really interesting and fun idea that you could do that I think would at least blow the couple away and make them say, "Oh, how can I not hire this person? Look at these extra steps that they did." So anyway, thank you for that. So Sam, it has been great to hang out with you today and just listen to you as you share your knowledge about proposals and how you can help filmmakers and wedding professionals just sell better and sell more. If there's, people that aren't following along and aren't, up on, the things that you are doing and that sort of stuff, where can people get more information or follow along and just find more out about IDAction and what you guys do?
Yeah, good way to get started is to start following us on Instagram. IDAction Consulting is our handle. We put up little tips and tricks that you can snack on 3 or 4 times a week. I also have my own podcast, Own Your Business, and you can find more sales pricing, copywriting, and general business advice there.
Yeah. So I highly recommend that you guys go follow Sam. Check that out. Also, if you go to his website, he's got a newsletter with sends out weekly too that I read and get lots of insights from there. So Sam, thank you so much for taking the time to hang out with me today and teaching our audience and hopefully helping them get better at proposals and all that stuff. So thank you so much for being on today.
Thanks, Nick. Appreciate being on.
Sam, thank you so much for being a part of the podcast this week. We didn't mention it on air, but they actually have a proposal template that you can buy and download and put onto your website so that you can send these proposals to your couples. And if you are interested in that proposal, make sure that you check out the link in the description of these show notes or the description of this YouTube video so that you can go over there and get that template from Sam and IDAction Consulting. Again, I want to remind you, Calibrate Workshop, it is coming on August the 23rd. Mark it on your calendar, save the date. Don't forget to join that wait list. Get on that wait list so that whenever we announce our early bird special and our early bird tickets, you can pick those up. Be the first to be notified for that. Again, that is howtofilmweddings.com/calibrate to jump on that wait list. Thank you so much for tuning in, and until next time, we will see you.
In this industry, first impressions matter more than ever. So what does your website and brand say about you? Hey guys, it's Austin here from The Creative, and as a wedding videographer myself, I know the power that branding plays in your business growth. Here at The Creative, we are a full-service creative team with over 15 years of experience specializing in creating websites and brands for wedding videographers just like you. From our full custom all-in-one packages to our do-it-yourself templates, we've got options that fit every business at any stage. You've poured your soul into your business. Now it's time to have a brand that causes couples to say yes before they even get to your contact form. To contact us, go to wearethecreative.studio.